I am the Water Resources Forester for kind of Southeast Texas. I'm stationed in the Urban Forestry Office that's here in Houston. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, okay. So I'm here today to talk about forested wetlands, and my main goal is for all of you to walk away from this with a better understanding of what you can get from your forested wetlands and what kind of incentive programs you can use and what TFS can do to help you really work through the programs and get the most out of your land as possible. So first we're going to start with a pretty obvious statement. Forests provide the cleanest water of any land use. We all know that. We all love water here. That's why we're all here. So how we're going to talk about this today is how it works with trees and water. So the main key points of this slide is that the trees really work as kind of like an interceptor for the water. They filter the water and kind of store the water so that by the time it gets down to streams or the aquifers or really anywhere, then it is already pretty clean, so we don't have to go through as much work to clean it ourselves. So this is an assessment that Texas A&M Forest Service put out in October of 2013 that kind of just assessed on a state basis what kind of ecosystem services we are getting from all the forests in the entire state, not just public, not just private, all the forests. So the number we got from this was $92.9 billion annually, which is really an incredible number, and we're hoping that this number really helps to raise awareness for the overall value of every single forest in Texas. But on a more scaled down, we have just watershed services. This includes water capture, water filtration, and water regulation, and the number we got from this was $13.2 billion, which is incredible. To me, that's an incredible number because it really just, like I said, with all the forests, it really just pushes forward how important these resources are to preserve. So first we're going to talk about kind of what is a forested wetland. It's not really a wetland, it's not really a forest. It's both of them kind of smashed together. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers includes in this definition swamps, marshes, bogs, and similar areas. But of course, each one has to have hydrophytic vegetation, hydric soil, and wetland hydrology. It has to meet all three of those criteria before it can even be considered as a wetland. So main benefits that wetlands provide are improved water quality through this little list of things and valuable other products for human use, such as lumber and recreation and just aesthetics. They just look really, really nice. So this is the Water Resources Program, and it's a branch of TFS, the branch that I work in, and we provide education, outreach, training, and technical assistance to both public and private landowners all over the state. There are only 4 of us. We're a pretty small program, so I have a pretty big area. But one of our main goals is to encourage the use of BMPs, or best management practices, on any type of forested land to reduce erosion and really just ensure that the land is preserved in the best possible way. So we offer a free publication of the state of Texas's BMPs, which you can get in the form of a PDF on our website, or if you call me or email me, I can just send you a little spiral bound copy of it. It's really convenient. Just throw it in your truck or in your car or whatever, and it's only like this big. Okay, so now we're going to discuss some incentive programs that you can put to work on your land. The first one is the Forest Legacy Program, which is conservation easement based, and it's funded by the U.S. Forest Service. And then we're going to talk about Forest Stewardship Program, which is also through the Forest Service, but it's on a more local level, and the TFS foresters help you create a plan to manage your land in the best possible way. And then we're going to discuss the Forest Taxation Program, which really just provides information and assistance to landowners when it comes to how they take care of their taxes on their land and making sure that everybody gets the right benefits and really gets the most out of their land. So first is the Forest Legacy Program, and like I said, it's a conservation easement program. through the Forest Service, but the main goal is to keep priority forest lands as forest lands. We don't want to change the land use out of forests. So this map shows where in the US the priority lands are. You can see in Texas, it's mainly in East Texas, but there is a bigger map of Texas later on. So FLP encourages easements that restrict things like development, sustainable forestry practices, and other things, much like he said earlier. But it really supports state efforts to protect our lands because it is on a national level, but is carried out on a state level. And it is designed pretty much to cater to NIPF, which is non-industrial private forest owners, because they're 60% of the forest in Texas are NIPF. So that's really the group that we want to get at. So to qualify for FLP, oh, you can't really see the map very well. That's Texas, that's East Texas. The highest priority land are in red, those counties in red, and then kind of moving out from there to the lowest priorities are in green, but still a priority. So in this program, funding is really competitive. So to strengthen an application or anything, you really want to partner with any sort of community partner or nonprofit to just really strengthen your application and make sure you kind of get a leg up above the competition. So in an acquisition for the FLP, it's funded 75% by the Forest Service, and the other 25% or more is through non-federal sources. So it can either be like donations from a landowner or a nonprofit or anything like that. But you can work with TFS. We do assistance. We do assistance with separate landowners for helping them find sources for their extra funding. But in addition to gains with sales or donations from your land, you also reap the benefit of taxes, reduced taxes. And when you sell your land or, get into FLP, you get paid in a one-time cash sum payment. It's not overtime, it's one big lump sum of cash. So in Texas, we have 3 successful forest legacy tracts. The first one, Turkey Creek and Longleaf Ridge, but the stats on the screen relate to Burleson Wetlands. This project was completed in 2009, and it cost right close to $1 million, and it's pretty close to 3,000 acres. The Forest Service, or the FLP, funded close to $500,000, and then in this specific case, the other half was an in-kind donation from the landowner. So instead of being a 75-25 split of funds, it was more of a 50-50 situation.
That wasn't a mitigation factor, that's just...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to discuss the Forest Stewardship Program. This is a program through the Forest Service, but on a state level. And you'll contact a forester, and they'll help you create a plan, a 10-year plan to manage your land to best possible management. But we want to cater the plans to each specific landowner to meet their unique needs. So through FSP, TFS does provide technical assistance to landowners so that they get the best management plans written as possible. There are different people you can go to get a management plan, but TFS makes really good ones, so come to us. But we really want to contribute to clean air, clean water, wildlife habitat, recreational resources, and timber supplies. So that's what we kind of direct our management plans towards. And as of 2013, approved plans covered approximately 24 million acres of forest land nationwide. Well, and then in Texas, the darker areas are priority. So if you live where a darker area is, you're definitely probably gonna get a plan. everybody gets a plan, but there is a little probably waiting list. So landowner participation in FSP kind of goes like the map said. When you're in East Texas, you have the most to gain and the most to lose from not doing this, because clearly that's the most forested part of the state. So these are really good resources if you're interested in FSP. So the first one is just a concise 10-page document that lays out the entire plan, how it works, kind of a quick run-by of how a management plan is written. The second resource, Forest Stewardship Plan Resource Elements Guide, is a document made for people who are writing the plans, but I see it as a really, really good way for a landowner to see how plans are written. And lastly is this Caring for Your Forest with a Forest Stewardship Plan. It's kind of a plan for your plan. Like, you read it to kind of figure out how to enact your management plan. And then the last incentive program is forest taxation. And this provides NIPF landowners with a consolidated source of information on tax issues associated with maintenance and management. So not a whole lot of NIPF owners have, a tax guy. So we like to play into this as like, we have a lot of tax expertise and we're at your disposal. So like I said, it's 60% of the nation's forest is NIPF. So that's a really large chunk of people who don't have tax knowledge at their disposal. So that's where we come in. For example, Senate Bill 977 was passed in 1999, and it states that, this is kind of a shortened version of it, 'cause it's very wordy. It states that if you leave an S&Z on your land, you can receive a tax break. So how this whole program works is the federal government, meaning the Forest Service, partners with the IRS to get all the applicable tax information. And then the feds come to the states and kind of whittle that away to even more applicable tax information. And then foresters within the state serve as your contact point for owners to get absolutely the most specific, best information that applies to them. Okay, so that's it with the incentive programs, but real quick, we're gonna cover how to utilize your forest wetlands for timber production. Not many people know this, but timber production is recognized as a land use that's compatible with wetland management. Although wetlands are federally regulated, normal forestry operations are exempt from permits. So if you have something like a written management plan, you're already part of an established silvicultural production, you follow the 15 mandatory road BMPs, or you have in place fire, insect, or disease control to protect your timber, you'll pass as normal forestry operations. And those do not require a permit. But if you wish to change your land use from forested to non-forested, which we don't encourage, you will have to get a permit. So potential impacts on forestry on wetlands. This is if you don't use your BMPs. If you have forest production, but you don't carry it out in the right way, you could cause lots of just pollution, water, lessen water quality, erosion, just lots of very bad things that we don't want. So we have in place these BMPs. That's the book I was talking about. We call it the Blue Book. It's our publication, and you can kind of get it however you want it. But putting these BMPs in place can greatly prevent or at least reduce non-point source pollution from water. So we have lots of guidelines. At the top are the roads, at the bottom are the stream crossings, but the main point here is that you want to minimize, restore, and stabilize. You want to try to leave the forest almost better than when you got to it. So they put in this road here, but when they leave the operation, they're going to fix it, take that out, replant it, plant through it. And then this is what I was talking about, the SMZs, streamside management zones. Major function of an SMZ is to protect the water from pollution or sediment. So in our Blue Book, you can get specifications for SMZs under all these different kinds of ecosystems, including bottomland, perennial, intermittent, ephemeral, backwater, forest swamps, and flatwoods. So that was fast. In summary, wetlands are really productive, and we want to preserve them no matter what. There are 3 really, really good incentives programs to be involved in, which are the Forest Legacy Program, Forest Stewardship Program, and the Forest Taxation Program. And timber production is compatible with forested wetlands if it is carried out correctly. Here's my information. Does anybody have any questions?
We definitely have time for a few questions. I kind of told she did not want to stand between us and lunch for very long. If you have a question or two, we can take it. Here we go.
Maybe you said this, and I missed it, I know you had the example, but for the Forest Legacy Program, is there a cap on, what generally is the amount?
I think it just really depends on how.
Did y'all hear that question, okay? Let's repeat the question.
She asked if there was a cap on funding. Yeah. With the Forest Legacy Program. I think it really depends on how big your land is, how high of a priority it is, if it's one continual tract or else it's segmented or whatever. I think it all depends, but I haven't encountered a cap. But
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I work at the Corps. We recognize the value of a lot of these forested systems and exclude them from things like nationwide permits, especially Tupelo Gum Swamp, Cypress Forest, and Columbia Bottomland Hardwoods. So there's a recognition on our part that some of these are very delicate,
Absolutely.
extremely important systems that we don't allow people to use nationwide permits on, and we encourage full disclosure and discussion of any impacts that are occurring on these areas.
Absolutely, yeah. And to go along with that, it's rarity. They're extremely rare. It's small systems that are very important.
So there are technological systems that allow you to log a forested wetland without changing the methodology?
Yes. Yes.
Hard to believe, but okay.
It is. So it's kind of based off the fact that it's a lot flatter than most forest production lands. Obviously, most of the time a wetland is very, very flat. So it's kind of based off of that whole situation. And so water runs differently and everything moves a lot slower in wetlands than it does on like a hilly production or something like that. So the specifications are kind of interesting to read over how they're different from a different, non-wetland operation.
But you can't like side cast materials, right? It's just, you've got the tree down, but you can't
Yes.
mess with the dirt there. So
Those are awfully big tires.
they are, yes, that's right. Well, the bigger the better, actually.
Anybody else?
On that Burleson tract example that you had, the cost was $990,000.
Uh-huh.
Is that total just for land acquisition, or that includes some improvements to that?
That's solely land acquisition. Mhm.